Hello and welcome, and thank you for being here for today's mixtures, applications, and selection tool guide. We'll be going through our line of mixers. Portable mixers. Neptune has portable mixers anywhere from 1/20th horsepower direct drive units through 5 horsepower gear drive units. Anywhere from 50-gallon tanks up to 5,000-gallon tanks. The mixer on the left is our B series mixer, which is a little smaller type of mixer for watertight materials, or drum mixers, and our large JG mixers. The JG mixer we'll start out with. It's a gear drive mixer. It can come in clamp or cup mount plate as standard. They're 350 RPM, grease lubed with helical gears. All of our mixers have a square pitch marine type props. We use them exclusively. All shafts and props are 3/16 stainless steel. We have optional coatings available. The motors are available in TEFC, explosion proof. Air motors are also available. We can basically just put just about any motor on our mixers. Just ask. And we also have variable speed drives available also. Typically, they're used for 500-gallon tanks and larger in higher viscosity liquids. The JG models come in a few different mount types. Like we said in the previous slide, standard is a cup mount or C-clamp. We have a angle type mount here. We call it the JGR. It has a 10-degree angle mount. And we also have a flange type, which can go on top of a tank. These particular types, we have flanges anywhere from 6 inches up to 14 inches. They come in 3rd horsepower through 5 horsepower gear drive. Again, C-clamp mount, angle riser, and flange mounting. Our small batch mixers, they're all direct drive, which meaning they're running off the motor, anywhere from a 1/20th horsepower motor up to half horsepower motor. 750 RPM. Again, 3/16 stainless steel propellers and shafts, and the optional coatings. Again, with the motors, you can get TEFC, explosion proof, and air. Variable speed drives are available. These particular mixers are typically used on 100-gallon tanks or less with watertight materials. Anything that's going to be higher in viscosity with the liquid, please contact us and we'll be able to suit you with the appropriate mixer. Drum mixers. Drum mixers, the two on the left here are our standard direct drive types, which is our E and F mixers. They get mounted directly to the lip of the drum or threaded through the bung opening. They're available in 1750 RPM direct drives and the 430 high viscosity types, which are here on the right. The high viscosity, you can see that we have little fins that we weld onto the shafts, along with a optional prop at the bottom. And these particular units can be used anywhere from 1 CPS viscosity up to 8,000 centipoise. The folding propeller is stainless steel. And again, the motors are available in explosion-proof TEFC and air. And you can see the folding propeller here fits through the opening of the bung opening here. And as it comes down and starts running, it opens up and that's where you get your mixing. In this particular bracket mount, you can see it has a little more of an angle for better mixing versus the straight through down the side on the drum. Bulk container mixers. We have a few different models when it comes to these models. We have the JGT, which is gear driven. This particular JGT is a JG mixer with a folding propeller at the end on the shaft. It mounts directly to the tank with an optional universal bracket if we have that available. The folding propeller fits through that 2-inch connection on the tanks. Depending on what tanks they are, we can have, as you can see in the HGL down here, you see this little bulkhead fitting that can be directly mounted to the cap of the bulk container. We have that available. The HGL, which this particular unit has the same folding propeller. All three have the same folding propeller. 9 inches when it expands, and again fits through the opening on a 2-inch bung. The RGT mixer up here, we have a couple different models. This is basically a right angle type, where it comes in horizontally and goes down into the bulk container. We have different brackets available for this particular model and particular tanks that are available. And we also have an optional second propeller available. The BF and the BC mixers are all air-driven types. You can see the mounting on the BF. It has a little flange on the top with the larger propellers. And these mixers are for a little bit larger tanks that can go up to 200, 300 gallons, and with higher viscosity liquids, because these are supplied with larger propellers, and you can actually control the speed on the motor. They come in anywhere from 1 horsepower up to 3 horsepower. Again, stainless steel props. The BC is the same type. It's just a clamp on type. Same shafts and the same size propellers. 1 horsepower through 3 horsepower. We have specialty mixers. We have the handheld. Well, it's basically a little trigger here where you can mix up paints in buckets, all air types when it comes to the handheld. They can go up to 55-gallon containers if necessary. That would be the larger types of motors. We have the pail mixers with the pipe clamp. As you can see, has the air motor. You can adjust it into a bucket or a container by just adjusting the adjuster on the pipe. The pail mixers is hooked to the rim of a 5-gallon container, and they're available in air or electric options. Now this tells you the pumping capacity or the movement of the mixer propeller moving based on the horsepower. And this will come up every once in a while. A customer might ask you the pumping capacities of our mixers. Again, we use a 1-inch square pitch propeller on all of our mixers. So this section would be used. You can see the propeller over here, the size with the single prop and the dual prop. And this, with it being a direct drive, it's only going to be limited up to 8-inch propellers. Now, down here is a couple of descriptions on dual propellers. Dual propellers do not produce the double amount of the flow. It's just it adds a little bit more to it. With a dual mixer propeller, it gets higher and will produce slightly more than 20% increase in flow, but it does require a little bit more in power. So take this into effect when getting inquiries on pumping rates. And this is the 350 RPM, which is our gear drive mixers. As you can see, the 3-inch through 6.5. There's nothing here because we don't supply any gear drive type of mixers with propellers really smaller than 8 inches in diameter. Now, I can read off all these numbers, but it's just for your information, because when you go to the next slide, you might get a inquiry on how much agitation someone might need in any particular tank. And we have mild agitation, which is basically turning over a tank. So based on the GPM or the pumping rate of the mixer and the size of the tank will dictate how many turnovers you'll get in 1 minute's time. And the turnover rate is based off of the GPM of the mixer, how much fluid is actually moving, dividing that into the tank size. This selection chart, it's a basic guideline for our mixers. Like I was saying before, 50-gallon tanks up to 5,000-gallon tanks based off the viscosity. This is a good chart to start out with, especially with mixers with the viscosities being low based on the size of the tank. And what I would suggest is, again, using this as a baseline. And if you have anything that's unusual, say there's solids or something to that nature, I would ask you to contact the factory, and then we would dictate your information and provide you a quote on the proper mixer. The proper mixing and positioning of the actual mixer is critical in most cases to get a good turnover with the tanks. We ask the propeller to be mounted in like a 10-degree angle from the sidewall of the tank and 30 degrees off to the right to get a good rapid turnover. And that's in this particular tank. And in this particular tank, the off center will produce minimum vortexing, but it will turn over gently, not as vigorous as in this particular arrangement. And when you're getting into larger tanks over here, typically you'll have a flange type of mixer that will be mounted in the center of the tank. When you're in the center of the tank, you will create vortexing, and vortexing is not going to give you a good mix. It's also going to create a big hole in the center of the tank. So what we recommend is to have baffles to deflect the actual movement of the liquid to get a good mix. There are other arrangements available. I mean, that might come up, like a square tank or a rectangle tank. Those particular tanks I would contact the factory on the proper positioning. My suggestion normally is, especially on a rectangle tank, is to put it in the corner of the tank where it moves the liquid around, and it basically will hit the walls of the tank to give you that good mixing.